Empire of Ashes, Episode 8, Heat and Force, written by Mia. My father said the Marchettis built everything out of heat and force, and then they owned you. He meant it as a warning. He never lived to learn that a warning, in this city, is just a recipe, and that his honest daughter had been paying attention. I found out the meeting had moved when I went looking for Dario with the truth finally in my hands and found the house half empty, Sophia white-faced in the hall.
They moved it up, she said.
The Falcons sent word an hour ago. Tonight, now their terms or the truce is off. Dario went.
He took 4 men.
Lena, she caught my arm, and she had her brother's eyes and all of his fear and none of his control. He didn't look right. He looked like a man who's stopped being sure of something. What's happening? What is happening to my family? Where? I said. Sophia, where? The old cannery on the Falcon Wharf. Lena, you can't. It's their ground. But I was already moving, my father's ledger against my ribs where it had lived for 3 months, and I did the arithmetic as I ran for the car, the cold, clean arithmetic he'd trained into me before I could spell. Dario, on Falcon ground, bargaining from a strength he didn't have, in front of the only men in the city who'd already worked out the truth. He thought he was buying time. He was walking into a room to confirm his own death warrant, politely, because his father had loved him too little to tell him the truth, and his wife had loved him too much. There was only one thing in the world that could pull him out of that room alive, and it was sewn into my coat, and the price of using it was that he would learn, in front of his enemies, exactly what I was. I went anyway. I had stopped somewhere in the last 11 days, being able to choose my own survival over his. That's not romance. That's just the truth. The honest girl my father raised would have driven the other way. I called Nico from the car. He didn't waste words. The cannery's a killing floor, not a meeting room, he said, and I could hear him already moving, already arming. Falcon only sets a single table when he means to clear it. Don't go in, Lena. Whatever you've got, it isn't worth. It's the only thing that is worth it. I said, get men to the wharf. Quietly. If I'm wrong, you bury us both and tell Sophia I tried. A pause, the longest I ever got from him. Salvatore picked his enemies better than his sons, Nico said. You have ended him in a year. Go save the one that's left. And he hung up, and I drove toward the water with my father's whole careful life against my ribs, rehearsing the only hand I had, knowing that if I'd misread a single column, it wasn't a bluff. It was a confession, and they'd put me in the harbor next to whatever was left of Tomas Vela. The cannery was cold and vast and smelled of salt and rust, and they had set a single table in the middle of it under one hanging lamp, and that theater told me everything. The Falcons wanted Dario to feel small in a large, dark place. Old Falcon sat at the head of it, the patriarch, dry and patient as paper, and Dario sat across from him with his 4 men at the walls and his spine straight and that beautiful ruinous confidence still on him, offering harbor concessions to men who had not come for concessions. 1/3 of the eastern berths, Dario was saying, with right of refusal on the...
Dario.
Old Falcon's voice was almost kind. Stop. You're embarrassing your father's name, and I knew your father 40 years, so let me do the courtesy he wouldn't. He folded his dry hands. We don't want 1/3 of your berths. We want all of them and the warehouses and the commission seat, and we're going to have them because we know what you've spent 8 months pretending isn't true. Salvatore died broke. The Marchetti Empire is a corpse you've been walking around the city in a good suit. We've suspected it for a year. And a little bird, very recently, confirmed it. He smiled. So this isn't a negotiation, son. This is a wake. We just wanted you to sit at the table while we read the will. And I watched Dario Marchetti understand, in real time, that he had walked his family into a grave, and I watched him not break. God, he didn't break. He just went still and cold and started, even now, even cornered, to calculate, and I stepped out of the dark at the edge of a lamplight into a room full of Falcone guns, with my father's ledger in my hand, and I said the line I'd been walking toward since the rain at the funeral. "The bird was me," I said, "and you've all been reading the wrong number." Every gun in the cannery turned. Dario came half out of his chair. "Lena." And the look on his face was the worst thing I have ever caused. Pure animal terror. Not for himself, for me. Even then, even before he knew. I did not look at him. I couldn't and do it. I looked at old Falcone, and I put my father's ledger on the table under the lamp, and I became, for the family that had ruined mine, the thing my father warned me they were. "My name is Lena Russo," I said. "Aldo Russo's daughter. Salvatore Marchetti bled my father dry, and then had him killed 8 months ago for finding out exactly how broke this family really was, and my father, being a careful man, wrote down what he found before he died. Every secret debt, every shell, the whole corpse, accounted to the cent. I opened it to the page. You're right, Don Falcone. The Marchettis are dead and don't know it. But here's the number you got wrong." I turned the ledger to face him. "It's the same book that has your debts in it. Salvatore played you and the commission against each other for 5 years. You've each been lending against the same collateral, the same berths, the same warehouses, twice promised, and neither of you ever knew, because the one man who saw the whole board kept it behind a wall. I let that land in the cold, salt dark. You move on the Marchettis tonight. You take the corpse. And the day you do, the commission learns you've been holding paper on assets that were already theirs, that you've been insolvent on Marchetti debt for 3 years and hiding it, and they do to you exactly what you came here to do to him. I've made copies. They release to the commission the morning after anything happens to anyone in this room, including me, especially me." Silence. The vast cold drip of the cannery. Old Falcone looked at the ledger, and his dry old face did the arithmetic, and I watched him arrive where I'd already been for 3 nights, that I'd turned his own weapon around, that the proof which could kill the Marchettis killed the Falcones in the exact same motion, that the only way anyone at this table survived was if everyone at this table left it alive and quiet. My father's third move. Make the proof worthless by making it fatal to everyone. I had perhaps 4 seconds where it could have gone the other way, and I have lived a great many of my hours since inside those 4 seconds. A man like old Falcone has put more people in the ground than he can name, and the simplest answer to a woman with a dangerous book is a bullet and a fire and a story for the papers. The new Marchetti bride. So tragic. The Falcones send flowers. I watched him consider it. I watched the gun stay up. I kept my father's steadiness on my face by main force and did not let my eyes go to Dario, because if I looked at Dario, I would stop being a wolf and go back to being a frightened girl, and the frightened girl died in that cannery, and the wolf walked out. I had learned, in 11 weeks in the Marchetti house, the one lesson the whole city ran on, the lesson my honest father had died never being willing to learn, that they only respect the thing that can hurt them back. So I made myself, for 4 seconds, into a thing that could hurt them back. It is the most expensive thing I have ever made of myself, and I made it to save a man who was about to hate me for it. Salvatore, old Falcone said at last, softly, with something that was almost admiration and almost grief, would never in his life have seen that coming. A daughter. He closed the ledger with one dry finger. He looked at me a long moment, and then he stood and gathered his men with a glance, and said the words that meant we'd live. The truce holds. Tell your commission friends nothing, and they'll hear nothing from us. Your father raised a wolf and married it to the wrong family, Marchetti. My condolences." And the Falcons walked out of the cannery and left the corpse standing, because a corpse that can take you into the grave with it gets to keep pretending to be alive. I had done it. I had saved them all. The family, Sophia, Nico, Dario, alive. Everyone on Falcone ground, with 11 days to spare. And then I turned to look at my husband and learned the price. He was standing. He'd risen at some point, and I hadn't seen, and he was looking at me across the table and the closed ledger and the cold lamplight, and the wall was back. Not the careful stillness I'd learned to read the tiredness behind. The other one, the one from the very first day, in the rain, at the cemetery. The door closing behind his eyes, complete, final, a man putting something away forever. "You had it the whole time," he said. "Quiet. The quiet was the worst of it. 3 months. The thing I turned over the whole city to find, the thing I told you at midnight would save my family, you had it sewn into your coat while I told you. His voice didn't break. I almost wish it had. You came to my father's house to bury me. You said the bride is grateful across a desk, and you meant the bride has a knife. Every breakfast. The opera. You let me. And there, only there, the smallest crack, instantly sealed. I told you you were the one person I didn't lie to. And you are the one person who is lying to me about everything that has ever mattered."
Dario.
Every word of it is true, and I was going to tell you tonight. I came here to tell you. You came here to save me. He said save like it was the cruelest word in the language, and from him, now it was, with the bomb you'd been carrying since the day we met. You loved me by lying. Do you know? No, you don't. You can't. He picked up my father's ledger off the table, the proof, the last thing Aldo Russo ever made, and he held it out to me, not throwing it, worse than throwing it, returning it, the way you return a thing to a stranger. My father did that to people, decided what they could survive, managed them for their own good, and called it love. I built my whole life swearing I'd never be him. His eyes were dry and ruined, and you knew that. I told you that in the dark like a fool, and you looked at me knowing it, and you did it anyway. I did it to keep you alive. I know, Dario said. That's what makes it the same. I tried one more time. I am my mother's child as well as my father's, and my mother gave everyone the benefit of the doubt, and it bankrupted her, and she never once regretted it. Your father is the reason I came, I said, but you're the reason I stayed. I need you to hear the order of it, Dario. I came here a blade. You're the thing that turned me back into a person. Every lie I told you these 3 months was true underneath. The steadiness, the breakfasts, I stopped performing somewhere around the 3rd one, same as you. I didn't save you tonight out of guilt. I saved you because I cannot live in a world that doesn't have you stubbornly holding up a dead empire in it. And that isn't penance. It's the realest thing I've got. And you can throw it back in my face, but you cannot make it untrue. For one heartbeat, something moved behind the closed door of him, and I thought there, that's him, he's still in there. And then it's sealed, because I had just taught him, tonight, on his own life, the same thing the city had taught me, that the people who love you are precisely the ones with the angle to destroy you. He'd be a long time unlearning it, maybe forever. Salvatore's son believed in doors that close for good, and I had just handed him the proof. He had the men take me home, not roughly. He would never be rough with me. Even now, even shattered, he gave the order to see me safe, which was somehow the thing that finally broke me where the guns hadn't. He didn't ride with me. He stood in the cold cannery with his dead father's debts and his living father's habits and the wreckage of whatever we'd been, and he did not watch me go. I had won. I want that understood because of everything that comes after. I walked into a room full of my enemies with the truth as my only weapon, and I saved every person I'd come to that city hating, and my father, my honest, ruined, forgiving father, would have been so proud of the woman who turned heat and force into a shield instead of a sword. I avenged him by refusing to become the thing that killed him. I won. And I lost the only person who had ever looked at a quiet daughter and a borrowed dress and seen, underneath, the whole of what I was and chosen it before he knew it would cost him everything. The marriage was a corpse now, too, like the empire, walking around the city in a good suit, pretending. We would have to keep pretending, of course. A Marchetti wife can't simply leave, not now. Not with the Falcons watching for any sign of the weakness I'd just bluffed away. We would go home to the glass house and the breakfasts and the opera box, and we would perform the marriage we'd accidentally meant for an audience of killers, with the truth finally, permanently between us. What I did to win him back, whether a thing built on heat and force and 3 months of lies can be rebuilt into the realest thing either of us ever had, or whether some doors really do close for good the way Salvatore Marchetti's son believes they do, is where it stops being free. To be continued in episode 9. You've reached the end of the free chapters. Episodes 1 to 8 were the door Lena walked through. The whole of her war, and whether she gets Dario back, continues for Inner Circle members in episode 9 and beyond. That was episode 8 of Empire of Ashes. If this one has its hooks in you, the next episode is already waiting. Subscribe so you don't miss it. The complete book is on Amazon, and early episodes plus Dario POV bonus scenes are on my Patreon. Links are in the description.
I'm Mia.
Thank you for listening.